Welcome to the Polygamer podcast, where gaming is for everyone. Join us as we expand the boundaries of the gaming community.
Hello and welcome to Polygamer Podcast, episode number 109 for Wednesday, January 27th, 2021. I'm your host, Ken Gagney. Fun fact, my day job is not in the video game industry. I work for Automatic, the developer of WordPress.com, the hosting platform. When I was hired there 3 years ago this month, my job title was Technical Account Engineer, but we eventually realized that job title doesn't translate well within the industry, so we eventually adopted the more standard Technical Account Manager. That is my full-time day job. And since that title does somewhat translate, I thought, well, what does it look like to be an account manager in the video game industry? So why not go right to the source? Today, I'm speaking with Massive Entertainment account manager, Dianna Lora. Hello, Dianna.
Hello.
Thank you so much for making time for me all the way from Sweden.
I know. Hello.
We were juggling the time zones to coordinate this podcast. This may be the earliest I've ever recorded a show.
I super appreciate you being so flexible. It's really difficult to schedule podcasts with y'all West Coast folk.
Well, you know, I wasn't always on the West Coast. I'm a digital nomad. I move around almost every month. I'm natively from Massachusetts, which is a little closer to you.
Mass. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Are we mortal enemies? Because I'm from New York City, so
No, New York's great. I love the Big Apple. Take the train down there from Boston, go see some shows,
or the Funghua bus, which is
as long as they don't explode.
As long as they don't explode or have crazy things that happen in them.
Right.
I'm so glad you know that reference. Not that many people know it.
I got you. I'm picking up what you're putting down.
Hey.
So tell me, I want to know more about Sweden, but first let's back up. Tell me more about being an account manager. And for those who haven't heard of it, what is Massive Entertainment?
Well, Massive Entertainment is a studio in Malmö, Sweden. We're in the southern part of Sweden. So we don't get all the snow, but we do get like foggy days because we're technically by the water. And so it's a video game studio. We're under Ubisoft. And being an account manager is fantastic. I think it's one of those roles that I never thought that I would be working, that I would have. I started out in musical theater, which is kind of funny. And it's being account manager is sort of a marriage of all of that, of being a theater person with the outward, like, hey, I'm really personable. I know how to talk to people, but then also having the production background and also the technical know-how in gaming and game development. So it really is, it's a very interesting position. So you're kind of like the bridge that connects everybody together. And it's awesome. I love it. I absolutely love it.
The way I describe my role as an account manager is to play that clip from the movie Office Space. I deal with the goddamn customers so the developers don't have to. I have people skills.
Yeah, that too.
But you're not technically interacting with customers per se, are you?
No. I work directly with the developers. So we have a platform called Ubisoft Connect that just launched. That initially used to be Uplay, and so I help the developers launch on Ubisoft Connect, as well as the PC client platform. So I regularly meet with the developers, also communicate with the game developers, as well as the platform developers and the client developers. So I'm kind of, like I said, in the middle of all of it. So I am a part of a lot of different meetings every single day, and sort of communicating tech speak back to HQ and or prepping a game team for their particular launch, which like this past fall, we had like 4 games that launched, and so that was a really busy time for us as well.
And what sort of games does Massive Entertainment produce?
Well, we produced the most popular one that we had was The Division, and The Division 2, as well as World in Conflict. We're currently in production of the Avatar game, as well as just announced a new Star Wars game as well, which is very fun.
Ooh, very exciting.
I know.
Some of the games you mentioned are original IP. Star Wars
Yeah.
clearly is a franchise that has a lot of gravitas behind it, a lot of history. It's very influential. What does it feel like to work with a brand that we all grew up watching?
Oh my goodness. It's exciting. We're not gonna lie. I think it's a huge honor. To be able to collaborate with Disney and Lucas Games and like I said, we just announced it's going to be a new story driven open world game set in the Star Wars galaxy, and we're so excited for that, and excited to sort of put the massive spin in that.
That's amazing. Is this Massive's first take on Star Wars?
Yeah, it is. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have we have the most fantastic team, and with some really great technology, including the Snowdrop engine, which is one of our the tech that a lot of the video games at Ubisoft use as well, and we developed that internally as well as in Massive too. So it's really, really exciting. I know I keep saying exciting, but it really, really is.
Well, given how early the game is in development, that's probably one of the few things you can say.
Yeah, pretty much. Exactly. Disney is always listening.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, these are two big companies, Ubisoft and Disney. Wow.
Ubisoft, Disney, don't forget Lucasfilm Games. I mean, they're back. And so that's exciting as well. So it's I just said exciting again, didn't I? How many times are we going to have a number that pops up?
No dinging. No worries. You don't have a quota.
Excellent. Yeah, but it's great that Lucasfilm Games is also is back, and we're able to sort of take the IP and run with that. So that's great.
So as an account manager, you're working with not only the internal parties that you mentioned, like developers, et cetera, but you're also working with Disney and Lucasfilm, et cetera. Mm-hmm. You're the liaison among all these different moving parts?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. We're still in early developments on how exactly that's going to work with, but yeah, that's pretty much it. It's going to be fun.
Did you even know that job titles like account manager existed? Because usually when people think about getting into the game industry, they're like, oh, I need to be a developer and no code. I need to be a designer, no art. Or some people are aware that they can be narrative designers, marketing, community managers, but account manager seems a little bit more niche.
It really is. I mean, I think it's one of those things where we, the public believes that, the video game industry is a specific way. And like you said, that there are, the only way that you can get into the gaming industry is if you're a developer, or if you're in community management, or, a producer. Everybody wants to be a producer or the ideas guy. And so, I don't think that folks realize that there's a lot of different ways to be a part of the industry. And really, I like to joke around that my path has always been windy and super out there. Like I joke that, I've done everything but develop in the gaming industry. I mean, I started as essentially a journalist, and doing video game videos in the early days of YouTube, and then podcasting as well. That was on my list, and helped some video game websites get on their feet. So it's a lot. There are a lot of different things that you could that could be that stepping stone into gaming that I don't think folks realize, and a lot of different skill sets. We need a diverse set of skill sets, and we can't all have like a technical mind. Sometimes being a theater nerd is awesome. It has its benefits.
I would agree with that. I've done a lot of community theater, nothing professional, but it's been a blast, and I had a lot of fun doing it.
Yeah, I mean, what are the sort of skills that I'm going to interview you? What are the sort of skills do you think are would transfer over to gaming?
Into gaming as an account manager, you mean?
No, from being in theater, from doing theater, from being into to being account manager, you think?
Oh, well, I mean, my account management occurs in the web hosting industry. Mm-hmm. So that job, I would say, is a really important blend of technical skills and soft skills. So my undergraduate degree is in tech writing, which you could summarize as taking a very technical subject and translating it to a lay audience, whether it's for a newspaper or a user manual or a magazine. So I was a magazine editor for 6 years. I would say that is a very valuable skill, is being able to translate one audience's topic to another audience, because you need to know not only the technical stuff. You need to not be a developer, but you need to understand what the developers are saying. So there's a technical experience and background that's necessary there, and the people skills to be able to communicate it.
Exactly. That's it. Exactly. So you have the technical ability, you have your people skills, you're all working together towards a common goal. I mean, we're all working together to launch a video game, right? Into the public, but also, support it in any way that we can, and sort of get it out into the world so that it could do its best. It's like this little baby. Aww. It's great. I mean, and all of that, to go back to that, the theater of that is, it's a bunch of nerds all working together to put something out into the world. So that's kind of how theater translates into gaming.
Now, in theater, were you one of the people on stage who gets the applause at the end of the show?
Yeah, I was. But also I did enjoy putting it together as well too. So I have my abilities in directing, and a director, as well as being a producer too. So
yeah, I saw that you worked on Manhattan Love Story. Is that right?
Yeah. That was for Manhattan Love Story though. That was also being a part of a crew. So it was crew for that. Worked as a PA for the carpentry. That
would be a production assistant?
Yes, a production assistant, yeah.
Cool.
That was like one of the best times of my life, being a PA. It was fantastic.
What did you love so much about it?
Well, I really liked the getting my hands dirty part of it. Like it was, you'd wake up at like 5:30 in the morning and get to the office at 6. Or on set, and it was a grunt work, so it was just like, hey, I need some donuts, and this was also like in New York and like Queens, and like this like studio, and there'd be like dudes like, hey, give me some donuts. I want some donuts. We'll get some like bagels, and I'm like, okay, how many bagels do we need today? And then going to not Best Buy, going to what's it name? Costco. Going to Costco and buying and buying like loads of granola bars, and setting up the food table for everybody, and then just like paperwork. It's like, yeah, it was great. It was fantastic, and always busy. And so it was like one of the great things of like getting a car as well. And driving around the city and to pick up paint and wood. It was so random, like for one day, but it was awesome. It was great.
Well, I hope nobody listening takes this literally and says, if I want to get into the game industry, I have to be good at getting coffee and bagels.
Yeah. It's a part of it though. But it's also humbling, because you're just like, you realize that, oh, okay, I'm getting the coffee and I'm getting the bagels for folks. But that's important because these folks are working really, really hard to build the sets. They get their requisite breaks. They're like, when you get them the candy that they like, they're just like, oh my God, thank you so much. Because you're an important, vital part of the production. And yeah, you're just getting food, but you're also keeping these folks happy, and they have fantastic stories that are not safe for work, that you should not be talking about in public, but they do, and because they're just like old guard, IATSE construction guys who just have a story about Martin Scorsese or something like that. It's wild.
Well, I would say that more broadly, my role as an account manager, at least, is to make sure people have what they need to do their job. And in my case, instead of coffee and bagels, that could be, do you know how to install a PHP code sniffer on your local development environment? And if not, here's the documentation. And if we don't have the documentation, I'll write it, or I'll find somebody who can.
Exactly. You're really being an account manager. You're in service of others, and in service of the cause of the production, and or any sort of thing that could happen that particular day. And it's really a lot of communicating and a lot of reaching out to folks. And I think this is where, that theater experience of not being afraid to, fall flat on your face, not being afraid to fail, being the person asking the questions all the time and saying, hey, why is it this way? And they're like, oh, I don't know why it's this way. Why don't we fix it? And then you're just like, I've got it. Let me fix it. Kind of scrappy.
One of the things you mentioned both in this podcast and in the Women of Ubisoft interview that you did was that theater auditions taught you how to accept no. Yeah. But it can be really hard to persevere when you're constantly getting rejected. So yes, it can be valuable to learn to accept no, but how do you get to that place where you don't just let it defeat you?
I think it's the people that you surround yourself with, to be frank. I just, with every rejection, you would, you cry a little, or you're just like, damn, man, like I wish it could have been different. And then pre-COVID, when we could all hang out with each other, you'd hang out with your friends and you'd be like, man, I didn't get this audition, or I didn't get this show, or I bombed this audition. You just be like, you have your friends around you who are just like, nah, it's all cool. Don't worry about it. You're fantastic. You're gorgeous. You're amazing. And gassing you up, as they say in New York. It's like, just making you feel fantastic, and, and knowing that, like, okay, if I didn't get it this time, I can get it next time. But then also just accepting that there are things that are beyond your control. And I think that that's what kind of it taught me. Even though you keep getting told no, there's always the possibility that someone's going to say yes. And having that particular bit of hope, keeps you going. And then also you just, it really gives you a moment for self-reflection, or just like, okay, why didn't it work this time? If we're talking about specifically, theater, I did crack when I hit that A, or, I did party a little too hard last night, or, maybe I should have gone home, gone to bed a little earlier to prep, or, I was a bit cocky. So, it gives you a lot of opportunity it gives you that opportunity to sort of reflect upon, like, what about on yourself, how you got here, what does that no mean? And also be like, sometimes you're up against, I don't know, like, what's her name? Jordan Sparkles. I made it to like a final, is that her name? I feel like I'm forgetting what her name is. But I made it to a final callback for In the Heights, and for Broadway too. And so I didn't get it, and that's fine. and I found out later that it was like this chick who like got out of like American Idol ended up getting it. And I was like, all right, cool.
That makes sense.
All right. I mean, like, if it was between us and her, or between me and her, like, all right. It's like, that's cool. Like, I don't have a problem with that. So, it's also like a bit of perspective. You kind of, take pleasure in even the smallest things. I made it that far.
I mean, it is a good opportunity to self-reflect and see where you can improve. But I imagine in any industry, but especially theater, you don't want to lose your core identity by changing aspects of yourself that you love just to fit a square peg into a round hole.
And it's so easy to do that too. And I think that that's where, a lot of folks, I mean, in general, it's not just theater, but I think in life, I think we lose a part of ourselves when we start, when we think we need to do that. And I think that consistently getting the no's taught me that, like, there's nothing I'm going to do about it. Like, at some point of the day, the person sitting at the other side of that table is just going to say, I had coffee today. I'm really not in the mood to be here. And then just not pay attention to anything, which has happened, so you can only control the things that I feel like there are a lot of things beyond our control, and we can't drive ourselves crazy to fit some particular mold that other people want you to fit. and that was like a valuable lesson that I took with that I took with me when I got out of theater and moved on to working in the gaming industry, where it's just like, yeah, folks want you to fit in a particular way, or they want you to fit in a certain demographic or whatever. And I was just like, I'm not going to do that. I'm sorry. Do you want to work with me or not? Like, it is what it is. Like, I'll talk to you later. So yeah, so it took a lot of that to sort of, teach me that, who gives a shit, right? Like what the fuck does it matter? It doesn't fucking matter. Be yourself. Who cares?
Was there a breaking point for you where you said, I'm going to stop pursuing a career in theater and try my hand at video games?
To be frank, it was really the recession. There was like a recession happening in the United States. I had just graduated from college. I did the tours. I toured around the United States and stuff, and that was great. And then, I was auditioning like crazy, and it was, and theater at that particular time was only hiring like superstars. They were hiring like stars, and because, film, I feel like it was during the writer's strike. Remember that ages ago?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like folks were looking for, so actors were looking for other places to work, and everybody went to theater. And so it was very difficult to find work. And so that's when I started to say, okay, I need to make a decision here. I am not making an income. So, it's getting very, very difficult. And so, I was still doing the working on YouTube and that, the YouTube videos and the podcasts and things like that. And I was like, well, at some point I need to make a decision because I can't keep, supporting myself on dollar pizzas.
Right.
And so I already had the connections, and I had the experience in the work, because I would, while I was, auditioning and stuff, you say you have your day job. What's your day job? And at that point I was working on Sony. And yeah, and so I was just like, okay, 100% working at Sony. I'm not going to audition anymore. I'm not going to do any more shows. I'm going to take this seriously. I got a promotion, which was really great. And then, I was like, all right, I'm getting really serious about working in gaming, because folks were saying, hey, we need your type of, we need your experience. We need your voice. And you should join us. And so that's what I did. I just started applying and got the opportunity to move to San Francisco, and I started working at a Japanese mobile gaming company, which was great.
Do you miss theater?
I do, but I scratched that itch. Which with like when I was in San Francisco, I worked at I was a part of a band where I was like a singer. I would occasionally do like an appearance where I'd sing like a couple songs, and that would be great. I really enjoy doing like readings. So like I occasionally, like a friend would be like, hey, want to do a reading on what is it called? The Google Hangouts and things like that. So do that as well. So I do miss it. I'm actually I'm doing auditions for a possible like a community theater around here, since there's a lot of like free time. Here, there's a perfect work life balance in Sweden. And so I actually, like, if I leave my day ends at 5:00, it actually does end at 5:00. So, now I'm like, oh man, like, I have time, not just because of COVID, but I actually have time after work to do things. So I'm auditioning for some theater around here as well.
And there actually is theater to audition for during a pandemic?
Yeah, there is. Well, with in Sweden, at least at Malmo, the theater groups are moving online, and which is a common sort of thing that everybody in theater is doing. We're all moving online to do Zoom shows, which some shows are fantastic. I saw a production of Midsummer Night's Dream on Zoom that was just like had me in stitches. It was fantastic. So yeah, so folks are moving online and doing shows that way. And you got to innovate. Got to innovate.
It's true. We all have to adapt to these strange times. And I hope that, some of the innovation is going to stick around because it's good, but I am also looking forward to the days when we can go to a theater and see everybody perform.
I 100% agree.
So as you mentioned, you are in Sweden, but there is a pandemic. And is that a place that you need to be with so many people telecommuting to their jobs now?
I think, if you had told me a year ago that we would be able to move completely remote, I would have laughed in your face. But I don't want to. I get really heated when I talk about this, so I apologize in advance. But I think that we were told in no kind terms a lie that working remotely was impossible. And I think that the pandemic has proved that is not impossible at all. So I think that with the improvements of technology, you could do your job anywhere. I mean, now you could sign on remotely onto your office computer and do what you need to do. I think for me personally, I do need to be here because I am working with a massive team. So it does help to just when eventually the COVID is over, I can just walk over and just be like, hey guys, I have a question, and that would be super helpful. But I think that when it comes to working remotely, especially when it comes to being able to do your job in gaming, I think that now that anybody that says that a role isn't remote is lying to you. It's totally possible. Don't believe them.
Yeah, the company I work for has been remote ever since it was founded 15 years ago.
Oh, so really? Whoa.
We've never had an office.
What?
But this is my first job like this. I've only been in this role for 3 years. Every job I had before this was in the office. And you're right. Like, so many of these jobs could be distributed, and there are pros and cons to that, but it's good to have the flexibility.
Yeah, I agree. And having that flexibility, I think, opens the doors for others. I mean, I think that, one of the number one things that I've heard is from my disabled friends who've been, wanting to find work and being told, no, we can't offer this role for you remotely. And it's just like, that's ridiculous. Like, why? It's a writing gig. Like, why do you need me in the office for this? When we have, a way to sort of communicate through video. I think, it's a lie. It's a very, very big lie that people push to try, I guess, to up their numbers. But really, you could do your job anywhere.
Yeah. And as you said, it's not only to the benefit of the employees, but also the employer, because I forget exactly how our CEO puts it, but something like intelligence and ambition are evenly distributed around the globe, but opportunity is not. And when you go remote, you now start fishing in a very big pond instead of just the people who can afford to live in San Francisco. Definitely.
And really, I firmly believe, opportunity is that key word. It's just like, an opportunity was given to me that completely changed the path of my life. And, when I started working at Sony, there's a gent who gave me an opportunity. He didn't have to give me the job. I was very rough around the edges. I mean, I was a theater person, but I was also like, that still hasn't gone, but I was like scrappy, and I was like, hey, I'm from New York. Hey, hire me. And I had please don't, nobody make fun of me, but I literally had my because I was I was applying to Sony, and I was also applying to Sony PlayStation at the time. So I sent my resume to both offices, and this particular office responded, but I had my gamer tag on my resume. It was like that. It was totally like that. It was, which is supposed to be a huge faux pas at that time anyway. And now if you're applying to gaming, people want more information about your gaming abilities. But at that point, it was this was a very officey job. Yeah, and and this guy just gave me the opportunity. He was like, there's something in you. You're cool. You're also honest, and you're sincere, and I do want to work with you. And that was awesome. And I think that that opportunity needs to be given to everybody, not just the person, the folks who are in your particular town.
So, given that break you got at Sony, and that you were, as you said, coming from musical theater, which industry would you say was harder to break into, acting or gaming?
Honestly, I think gaming. I think gaming at that point really, because I think gaming puts up a lot of is very gatekeepy. Again, like I said earlier, folks think that the only way to work in gaming is if you're a developer, or if you're a writer, or those typical roles that are advertised, and I don't think people realize that we as in the gaming industry, we need a breadth of skills and abilities that aren't just technically minded. We need those soft skills as well. We need folks who are able to communicate and collaborate. Those sort of things. We need a lot of those types of folks. And so I think getting past that barrier of where I was applying to be a producer at that point. And they were like, "Oh, we need, this particular, this many years experience." And I'm like, "I don't have that many years experience. This is my, I have the skills for that. But I don't have this many years experience in gaming, because this is my first gaming job. And this is an entry level, gaming job. So why are you making it harder for me to get in when I have the skills and abilities for this particular role?" And so so I think gaming just makes it very difficult for folks who don't have that path to get in. And so I've really on a sidebar to that, I really make it my business to sort of when I recommend people, for roles, or it through my career, is to sort of look at folks who are not typically that fit into that gaming bubble, that gaming circle that is very specific. So I like to hire theater nerds. I like to hire folks who worked in film and TV. I think that those are the sort of things that are super important that we as an industry need to sort of really consider.
I think it's important to hire people interdisciplinarily, because they bring all those different perspectives. I mean, there are lots of different kinds of diversity, which we'll talk about, exactly. But professional background is one of them.
Exactly. Massive is really great about that. We have somebody who used to be a professional puppeteer who works in gaming, who works at Massive right now. So, he's a puppet master. So that's really, really cool. Mm-hmm. We have folks who worked in film and TV who work at Massive too. So, I think that's important. Those are really important things that we need to consider when we start bringing folks in.
There are several account managers where I work, and two of my peers with that title, one has her law degree, the other has a PhD in performing arts.
Oh, yes.
And awesome. Now we're all account managers.
Look at that. That's awesome. That's fantastic.
So you currently work at Massive. At a previous job, you worked at Deep Silver, which has published such games as Dead Island, Saints Row, Shenmue 3. If I understand your LinkedIn profile correctly, between Deep Silver and Massive, you had a couple of years as a freelancer. Is that correct?
Right.
So what were you doing in that role as a freelancer?
I honestly was unemployed. So it was at that point, because I was laid off from Deep Silver. That was a very interesting time. I did a lot of odd jobs, I guess you would want to say, where I would help somebody with their site, or I'd help somebody with their script, or I help somebody with their their writing, because their marketing, or their pitch doc or something like that. So I was doing a lot of different things. At one point, I even worked at what was it, the PlayStation. Why can't I remember the name of it? But the PlayStation event. Oh my gosh. What's the name of that convention?
PlayStation Experience?
Yes, that's it. The PlayStation Experience. Thank you. Yeah, so I worked the PlayStation experience, and I was working with for Naughty Dog at that point. With their they were having like they had like a booth, and so I was helping with the booth there. It was so for those couple of months, that was just a lot of like hustling and also networking and getting to know people. Now that I had more time, I just be like, hey, so why don't you tell me what you do? Let's talk. And just meeting a lot of different folks as well. Because I was still in San Francisco at that point, so I would just be like, "Hey, does anyone want to go get coffee? Let's go get coffee. That's fun." So yeah, so it was a lot of hustling. Never stop hustling, and also looking for a job. So just applying to I applied to a lot of different companies. I made it to the final to the final selection process at that point, and for a lot of different companies, so many, and I randomly applied to Massville. I was like, oh, it's in Sweden. Nah, why do they want this mouthy broad working in Sweden? so yeah, and then I got it. And then like it was my first time like when I went to Malmo, when I came over here to Malmo, it was my first time outside of the United States. Well, that's not true, but outside of the Western Hemisphere. So it was my first time in Europe. So which was amazing, and I was like, oh, look at that, look at all these buildings, this is such an old town. Woo. And I loved it. I fell in love with the town. I fell in love with Massive, and the rest is history.
So as an account manager, you're now constantly in communication with all these different internal and external parties, running things back and forth. As a freelancer, you were hustling, always looking for your next gig, and also applying for jobs, which can itself be a full-time job.
Yeah, pretty much.
Which would you say is more, I don't know if hustling is the right word, but which lifestyle is more frenetic, having a full-time employer or being your own boss?
I think being your own boss is hard.
Yeah.
It's so hard. It was one of the most challenging moments of my life, because it's like, I was very dependent on that next paycheck. Very, very dependent on that next paycheck. And let's be real, like I also lived in like one of the most expensive cities in the United States. My rent was ridiculous. I cannot believe I survived in San Francisco unemployed for as long as I did. I barely made it, barely. And if it wasn't for, my beautiful, beautiful, fantastic friends who helped me, make those connections and help me find those like, one-off gigs, I wouldn't have made it. There was no doubt about it. I would have left like much sooner. But being a freelancer is really, really hard. It's one of the hardest things, I think, and it's a very brave thing. I have some friends after the pandemic here, during the pandemic, who essentially, they were unemployed, but they decided to go freelance. And we talk about that, the complexity of being your own boss and having that responsibility, and always always be working, and finding that, that balance between, okay, so now not only am I working from home because I have to be home, but I also have to, make a paycheck because, and make it myself. So how am I going to do this? I have to, make calls. I need to constantly be on social media and advertise myself and advertise my abilities and my skills. And so it's a lot of work. And then also refining that constantly so that you could actually, have like a particular product or a particular, skill or ability to put yourself out there. And so I think that is a very, very difficult thing to do. And it's a very, very brave to do. And also making that decision that, I'm going to, make money on my own and not, not be under anybody, not be under a major company, which I also think is extremely freeing. which is another thing that folks are, my friends have been saying when they made that decision to go completely freelance, is that, it's the one of the most exciting and scary moments of their lives. And I 100% agree. And I only did that for a few months. I was like, I don't know if I could do that. I do not know if I could do that again.
Yeah. I've sometimes in my life tried to go freelance. I had a full-time job and I had a gig on the side. I was like, I hate my day job. I would much rather be doing this other thing full-time. And I could just never build it up enough. And maybe that was lack of opportunity. Maybe it was lack of ambition, but I could never even just get to the point. Maybe I should have quit my full-time job so I'd have to do it. I don't know, but you're right. It is very brave.
It is. And I remember even before that, like when I was, when I was in theater, having to make the decision between, keeping the day job or, continue to audition and do the shows that you're doing. That balance is always there, and you always be like, well, but I need to pay my bills, and at some point, you have to make the decision, or you're gonna have to pay your bills, or just jump head first, 100% faith on your skills and abilities, that's a very difficult decision to make.
Mm. There was one point where I wanted to try my hand at acting as a career, not just in the community. And I got a call one night to come be an extra in a Sandra Bullock film that was filming in Massachusetts. And I was like, great, when is it? And they said tomorrow. And I'm like, that's 12 hours notice. I have a full-time day job.
Yep.
And I have not given my manager any notice that I'm just not going to be there tomorrow.
Yeah.
And so I had to say no. In order to be an actor, I had to be unemployed, basically.
Yeah, pretty much. Or have some form of income already, or have, income, because of your family supporting you, which is a very real thing. So you have your situations where folks are just like, oh, my family supports me. My parents support me because I want to be an actor. And you're just like, well, shit, I wish I had that opportunity. My family can't do that at all. They love me and they want me to be fantastic, but paying my rent and my bills so that I could go off and do that, that's not a realistic thing for me.
Yeah. You mentioned that in one of your interviews you're the first person in your family to go to college. Is that right?
Yeah, first person.
Wow, congratulations. That's great.
Thank you. It's kind of unbelievable sometimes. It's there's a lot of honor in that, but there's also a lot of there's a lot of responsibility and wanting to succeed and doing your family proud, that comes along with that. And I think I'm doing all right.
I think they would be proud of you regardless.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
They are.
So what can we do? And I don't know who we is. It could be the United States. It could be families. But what can we do to make it easier for those people who want to go to college to do so?
I think it's the support of having. I think really it's having a support system. You need to surround yourself. I always say you need to surround yourself with really good people, whether that's family, whether that's friends, whether it's a combination of both. You just need to have good people behind you who are your cheerleaders, and really who will respect your decision. Because I don't think college in we were told that we needed to go to college. Like that was the important thing. I was told I needed to go to college. I needed to, get a degree. And I did. I got my degree. I got my theater degree, my BFA, Bachelor of Fine Arts. And then, when I was working in gaming, or when I was starting out in gaming, I was like, oh, I need to be able to know what I'm talking about, because I also, one of my things that I was doing was I was also working on a streaming service back in the early days. This was before Hulu came out and kind of blew us out of the water. And we we were going to all of these like really big important meetings with these big important dudes in suits, and I needed to be able to understand what they were talking about. So I was like, okay, well, I make it my business to understand what the hell I'm talking about. And so I went back to school and I got my master's in entertainment business. And so I did that. And, I have my master's as well. But that was my decision. And that was something that I think that I remember when I was trying to make the decision if I wanted to get the master's or not. I remember a coworker saying, Dianna, I don't think this master's is necessary. If you want to work in gaming, it's not necessary. You just need to have the ability and you have the opportunity. And I'm just like, well, I don't have the opportunity. So this will help me. And so it at the end of the day, it did. And I don't regret getting my master's at all, but that was my path. That's the direction that I went. And I will say that, having that degree, having that master's, having the BFA, going to college, that was something super, super beneficial to me personally. And that was something that I had full support behind me from everybody that I love. Am I going to suggest that for somebody else? I don't think so. I think, I think, college kids these days, as they say, I think there are better opportunities. There's more opportunity out there to enter gaming. So, find what you're really good at, find what you're looking for, what you want to do, and then just find the community from there. I've been telling folks that find your Discord community. There's a lot of Discords. There's a lot of Reddits. Like Reddit is a fantastic resource. There's a lot of places where you can talk to folks. Twitter, like I was just mentioning on Twitter, yesterday that LinkedIn. People sleep on LinkedIn, but it really is a fantastic resource. It's a great resource to connect to people. So I think that there's a lot of opportunities right now for folks to get into the industry. My footsteps are windy. They're very, very windy. I have done, like I said, I feel like I've done a lot, and I've had a very, very windy, fantastic journey that I say folks that was my journey. And, if you need help, I'm here to help guide you, but I don't recommend going my way because there was a lot of hardships. It's a lot easier now. Yeah, just find the resources. There's a lot of resources if you want to get into gaming. There's a lot of folks who are also out there who are willing to help and reach out and reach out to folks who want to get into gaming as well. So I think in this very, very, long story short way, I think it's really, it's not a matter of making it easier. It's just a matter of making your own opportunity.
I absolutely agree about finding your community. Whether that's on Twitter or Discord or LinkedIn, mm-hmm. I got my master's degree, and I would say the most valuable thing I got out of it was the connections I made. Right.
I mean, it really is. And really and I think the connections that I've made are just the people that I've met throughout the years, like, going to like an event and just being like, hey, oh my gosh, hi, like, I haven't seen you in ages. Let's talk. Let's catch up. Oh, what? You're looking for a job? Oh, here's my resume. Like, it's really like that. And just not being an asshole, like being a sincere, good person can get you a long way. I think a lot of folks think that like there's strength in being cruel and mean and just ignorant as fuck, to get your hot take of the day. Like, I don't think that is an effective way to get folks to like you. I just think being a sincere, good person can go a long way.
Well, it's very similar to how we started the conversation about being an account manager. Be of service to others. I've found the most valuable things that I can do in the gaming industry is introducing people to other people, yes, or just giving them opportunities, like being on a PAX panel and making sure that it goes well for them. When one of my friends, Francesca, who's been on this podcast, says that she loves being on my PAX panels because all she has to do is show up. And when she shows up, Like, I already have everybody's little name placards out. I have notepads and pencils so they can take notes during the presentation. I have the slide deck that introduces them. So there's nothing for them to worry about. It's just all ready.
That's awesome. That's so nice of you. Oh my gosh, I want to be on one of your panels.
I want you to be on one of my panels.
Did we just make a connection?
I think so. OMG.
Hey.
So we've both been at PAX East, and that was easier for you to access when you lived in New York. Before that, you lived in Louisiana, then you lived in San Francisco, and now you live in Sweden. Mm-hmm. Has any one of those places felt like home to you?
Oh man, I'm a born and bred New Yorker. I'm
really
born and raised New Yorker, and I guess bred too. I love New York. I love New York so much. It's in my blood. It's in my soul. And I miss it desperately. I'm getting teared up just thinking about how much I miss New York. So I think that's my home, but that's my home. It really is. But it's just like, sometimes you just get tired of your home. And that's pretty much what happened with me that made me move to San Francisco. I was just like, just needed that moment that was just like, Dianna, there's more things out there. You need to open your eyes. And getting the opportunity to move to Malmo, Sweden, a place that if you had said to me, 5 years ago, oh yo, Dianna, you gonna be living in Sweden, I'd be like, yo, you fucking crazy. Like, get the fuck out of here. Yep. What the hell is in Sweden for me? For me. Dianna,
and yet there you are.
And yet here I am. And I'm not gonna lie, but Sweden is kind of feeling a little bit like home now.
Mm-hmm. How long have you been there now?
It's going to be 3 years.
Wow, already.
Right? Yeah. It really is. Like, time flies. Time really flies.
Well, I'm glad you got to experience Sweden before the pandemic. I started nomading a year and a half ago, which means I move almost every month. And for the last year, almost every place I go feels the same because everything is shut down and you can't see any people and there's no community or no culture.
Yeah.
I've been to some great places like Bend, Oregon and Portland, and I'm supposed to be going to Alameda next.
Oh, fun.
Well, you would think, but what's the point of being in Alameda when you can't see anybody or do anything?
That's true. That's true. I was just literally about to say you should go to the theater, but that theater in Alameda, but that's shut down too.
Yeah, that's my point. When I would arrive in a new city before the pandemic, the two things I would look up were the community theater and the contra dances, and I would get to see all the culture and meet all the people. And now I go to each place, and my question is, does it have a TV so I can watch movies and play video games?
And internet.
Right.
Yeah. What's so funny is that like this year, isn't that how everybody's story is? It's like this year was supposed to be the year. Like this year was going to be the year where I was like, okay, now I'm comfortable in Sweden. I'm feeling good. I got my place, so I'm feeling pretty good. So now I'm going to travel because we're so close to. What's great about Malmo is that we're connected to Copenhagen, and it's a major airport. And so you could fly anywhere from there. So I was just like, oh man, I'm going to go this place. I was going to go this place and go to Spain, which I haven't been to yet. Oh. I haven't been there yet. It's like right there. It's like 2 hours away, man. It's, I will say this though, last year, not last year, like pandemic last year, but the year before that, I did go sailing in that was in the Mediterranean, and that was like one of the most amazing things in my life as well. I was like, yo, again, this Dianna from the Bronx is sailing in the Mediterranean. I'm so bougie right now. Look at me.
It's so amazing when you just take a step back and you look at the context of where you were and where you are, and you're like, I could not have seen this coming.
No, then it's been a blessing. Sometimes I'd walk down the street and I'm like, I'm in Sweden. Like, it's just like walking and I'm just like, where am I? Oh, that's right. I'm in Malmo. I'm in Sweden right now. I'm in Europe. I'm not in the United States. It's a very odd thing. It's something that, like, I'm talking to some of my coworkers who are also from the US, where it's just like, has it hit you that you live in Europe now? Or like, I don't know. I've been here for 6 years, and every day, like, it's always amazing. I'm like, yeah. It's a blessing, though. It's a blessing.
See, with me, I move around so often that there are mornings I wake up and I have to ask myself, where am I?
That's so awesome, though.
It gets a little confusing.
I need to ask you questions offline about that, because that's pretty sweet.
I am open to questions.
Nice.
So we're coming up on an hour, but there's one other topic I want to talk to you about, which is that as we're recording this, it's late January, which means we're on the cusp of February, which is often observed in the United States as Black History Month. Mm-hmm. And your Twitter timeline was referring to people falling into bad habits, artists being exploited, etc. So, as a white person, I'm aware that Black history should be celebrated every month. But beyond that, I'm not familiar with any negative connotations of how Black History Month is observed. I hate to be the white dude asking you to explain things to me, but can you help me understand what's going on?
Yeah. Of course. I think the simple, where we joke about, what folks have been joking about is that, like, I think folks forget that Black, like you said, like Black History Month, we should be celebrating, all, like, every month. We should be celebrating all the time. And I think what ends up happening is, after the Black Lives Matter movement, folks were like, we need to pay more attention to the Blacks, and we need to pay more attention to the Latinos, like, because they're angry. So we're going to, use this opportunity to say that we support Black Lives Matter, and it could seem opportunistic. And kind of makes you feel a bit tokeny when somebody reaches out to you to say, hey, we want to highlight you for Black History Month. It's just like, you didn't pay attention to me and my skills and abilities for the whole entire year. But for this particular month, all of a sudden, now you're interested in what I'm doing. And so that can be extremely insulting and obnoxious, because folks are here all the time. Like, they're like, Black folk don't become visible just that 1 month, which one month out of the year. And I think that there's a bit of saltiness around that, because there are people who are actually doing legitimate work all throughout the year, who are constantly reaching out to, major companies and, major outlets for some form of visibility. And, 11 months out of the year, they're constantly being annoyed. And then the only time their services are needed is to essentially elevate that company, or elevate that outlet's platform. And so it's just like, I don't want to be a token. I don't want to be anyone's token. I'm actually, and so there are some folks who are just like either refusing wholeheartedly to just not participate in any of that sort of foolishness of being that particular token, but then also saying, okay, you want to use me, then pay me. Like, fuck you, pay me. It's like I think Black public speakers, when you folks are asking for their rates, you say, hey, these are my rates. And then all of a sudden, the person asking completely disappears, because they only want, your voice for how much they want to pay you for. So it's just like, if you think that my voice is important, then you're willing to drop down that cash to support it. So I think that is, that's kind of what's happening right now. You don't want folks to be exploited. We're also reminding a lot of folks, hey guys, do not forget these, if you want to work with me, then pay me double what I'm normally worth. And I think that there's valid, it's extremely valid because, as soon as, the protests and, the protests started to sort of die down, Black Lives Matters, Black Lives Matter started to disappear from folks' timeline. And so, and the importance of that message and what people were protesting about was gone. And all of a sudden it's, those Black voices we're just not as valuable, and that's extremely disrespectful because folks exist outside of these sort of circumstances, and I think that what's incredibly frustrating as well is this like and I think Tanya said it really well on Twitter. She was just like, I don't want to do, why I am this, person, underscore person in gaming, I don't want to do those, insert, it's so, it's very difficult to be a Black woman in gaming, or difficult to be, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, in gaming. Like, I don't want to talk about those conversations anymore. Like, nobody wants to, talk about like how, I was a theater major, or how was, like in this case of Tanya, it was like she has like a breadth of experience and abilities, and she is beyond that. Like, she's beyond that, and we're beyond that, and stop exploiting people at the end of the day is what it comes down to.
I mean, there is value in Diversity 101 for those who have no prior introduction to it, but that corpus of literature has been produced. It's out there for people who need it. And to Tanya's point, it's time to move on to Diversity 201 and 301.
Exactly. And highlight people all throughout the year, not just during Black History Month, not during just insert this particular month. Like, there are Latinos in the gaming industry that are working extremely hard. There are Asians who are working extremely hard. There are Native Americans who are working very hard. There's a lot of people in the industry who are working very, very hard, and we should not only highlight them that one particular month out of the year. And we need to respect that and understand that it does get exploitative when you're only highlighting them that one time of year.
Mm-hmm. So we should celebrate diversity year-round and pay people what they're worth. It sounds easy.
It's so extremely easy.
I mean, it should be. Right?
It's a matter of like what I said earlier. It's just like, stop being an asshole. Like, and even that even goes with, not paying people what they're worth. It's like, you have the money to pay people more. It's just that you just don't want to, and that's incredibly disrespectful.
Absolutely. Well, thank you. I appreciate you putting those things into context for me. Now that you've explained it so easily, it sounds obvious, but these are not things that I had been made aware of. Yeah,
and honestly, it's like you said, the information is out there, and and if you have any questions, it's perfectly okay to just ask too.
Well, thank you. And where is Here Online? Where can people find you?
I'm on Twitter. That is one of my main platforms. So you can find me at girlpantsgr, and that's GRL pants GR.
Is there a story behind that?
There actually is. There was I was bowling. It was like I was in high school. I was bowling, and and we were trying to come up with nicknames, and somebody was just like, "You're a girl, and you've got pants. So girl pants." I was like, okay. But I couldn't fit the full girl pants. And so it was just like GRL pants.
But do the pants have pockets?
Always.
Of course.
They always need to have pockets. It's a requirement. Why do you get pockets? I don't understand.
Me neither. Makes no sense.
No sense.
So primarily Twitter. Anywhere else?
I'm also on Instagram. But pretty much, if you just need to find me, you can find me on Twitter, and there's like a link there that connects you to other places as well.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah.
So we have talked today about being an account manager, about being a freelancer, living in New York, San Francisco, Sweden, going to college, Star Wars, Black History Month. Is there anything else you want to chat about today?
I could continue to talk if we need to. I just want to say thank you for inviting me. This has been such a wonderful experience, and yeah, just I always make myself available to folks. If you have any other questions, just reach out to me. Very, very open. I'm an open book, so I don't have a problem helping folks out. So
I'm so glad to hear that. Dianna Lora, account manager at Massive Entertainment. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
This has been Polygamer, a Gamebits production. Find more episodes, read our blog, or send feedback at polygamer.net.